A couple things, obviously, we want to work on. Free throws continue to be an issue. X still seems to be finding things. Outside of that, like the performance, you expect there to be some nerves in the beginning. And I was really, really encouraged the way the bench came in and really kind of solidified the first half and calmed things down and really made everybody start to feel better about where we're at in the game. So that part of it was exciting. I think one concern for me was the fact that you mentioned Freeman. He played 14 minutes and had 14 points. When he went down, that's really when the game seemed to turn. So, I don't want to read too much into that. He shot 3 for 4 from 3-point range. So, obviously we adjusted our defense, and coach hit the nail on the head when he mentioned that Woody kind of sharpened the blade there at halftime. So not going to overreact to that either, but just something to certainly keep the eye on. But overall, I think it was a very solid first performance.
Yeah. And Coach, to get your impression on something real quick before you leave, IU obviously this year has changed something on defense where we're seeing them switch a lot more than they did last year. We're practically switching on everything. It's causing a little bit of struggles and a little bit of growing pains as they learn that. Some of the communication, some misses for that. Also, that help side defense obviously is sagging off quite a bit again this year, leading to some 3-point shots for the other team. What is your thoughts on IU handling and continuing to do this kind of switching defense?
I like it. I think an aggressive switch can really cause teams a lot of problems. The difficulty is some of our lineups. Can you, when you switch, can you guard perimeters? Yesterday, Morehead State 1 through 4 was really small and quick, and then when a Race or a TJD gets switched on them, that's when you gave up some drives and the overhelp occurred. Indiana's really trying to stop the drives. They're in their gaps. And early on in the season right now, their closeouts aren't extremely sharp. They're a little late to 3-point shooters. That being said, you got to trust Woodson's defensive mindset because they were really solid last year. And like I said, I think it was an 18-point lead at halftime. The spread was 24.5 that Indiana was favored. So they almost had that at halftime, minus some miracle threes by that kid that Martha mentioned. So, I think it was a lot better performance. Everyone's a little nervous about winning and playing perfect. This is what, again, you want a top-level program. As you look through the scores when you get a chance this morning, there are some teams who really struggled that are supposed to be top 25 teams in game one, and 1 by 11, 1 by 8. Some teams lost. So, and you didn't need TJD. The nice thing is you saved some legs, too, with Race and TJD by playing that way. But the defense is going to be solid. I think the ball pressure is good, and you really want to guard someone for 1 or 2 dribbles in this game because everyone can dribble. It's the hardest thing to guard, and everyone's running it. But I think that's good, and the switching is really good when you get your athletes in the second unit. You got Geronimo and Bates and Galloway. Those guys really got after it, and both times those groups came in, that switching. And one thing, Chad and Martha, after the first time out, and IU gave up some drives, they went back to not switching. They were going over ball screens and doing some drop coverage or flat coverage on the ball screen. They weren't switching as much after the first time out. So within the game, they went back and forth a couple times, and that's what you like to see, a coach making those adjustments throughout the game. But the defense, again, 53 points against that team, won 23 games last year, replacing some starters, yes, but that program's headed in the right direction, top 2 or 3 team in that conference. That was a significant performance last night when maybe you give Indiana a B minus overall from where they're going to be. That's a sign that this team's pretty good.
Yeah. And you mentioned something big when that second unit came in and played a lot and kept the energy up and everything. It's really kind of the group that kept the team in it. And if you go in a time machine back a year from now, that was one of our biggest arguments was the second unit needed to get more play. We needed to get some more play for then it was talking about Christian Lander. He needed more go and all that stuff. And we have wanted not for that this year. He's been very good with the substitutions. He's been very good with getting guys in and out, getting that second unit some play and some go. The other interesting thing that we've seen rear its ugly head that I know us fans are not too excited about was the 2 fouls and you're benched. Now, it's interesting this year to say, because I know X had his struggles today or last night, and he had those 2 fouls, and we didn't see him the rest of the first half. But with such a deep bench and being able to kind of bring other guys in and let him rest and not worry about that, allows this team some flexibility, and I don't feel as negatively about that. Martha, did you have thoughts on kind of that 2 foul situation going into this game and how it's going to affect this year?
Yeah, to your point, I don't think it's going to be as magnified this year, just because I don't think that our bench, we have very solid options coming off our bench, right? And as dynamic as we can make our lineup. I shot you a text, and when X went out with 2 fouls, and we went with the lineup with Hood Schifino, Galloway, Geronimo, who else was there? Malik Renew, and who am I missing? But I remember shooting you a text, and I'm like, I love this lineup. And I don't know that there was one starter in at the time. So, our ability to absorb somebody getting 2 fouls, because there was a big drop off at times when we had to go to the bench. You're not going to see that this year. So that's what I find exciting. So I think that's, something that we'll be able to absorb this year. And hopefully we have guys stay out of foul trouble. You mentioned X. You also look at Malik Renew. He played 17 minutes, and I think he had 4 fouls, I believe. So, he was getting called too. So, but overall, it wasn't a bad performance, in terms of guys getting fouls. So we'll continue to monitor.
Yeah, Coach, since you're a coach, your overall kind of thoughts on that 2 foul, and then kind of transition from there into what you thought is going on with X, his struggles and what he's dealing with. Oh, got Coach.
We've been we've been a 2 foul sit guy unless you're in trouble in the first half and need those players. So I'm okay with that, especially this year. As Martha said, I think the depth, we can absorb that. X is just trying too hard. It's a great thing. The kid wants to win, and he's just trying too hard right now and playing way too fast. And I know Woodson has said stuff in the press conference. I saw Coach Yao talk to him before the game. And at some point, the lesson's going to have to sink in. And it will, because we saw it last year. The same thing happened, trying to do too much and play too fast. And I thought last night that foul on that 3-point shooter got in his head, and he stayed with that a little bit too long with the officials. And so he's got to just fix things. But just like Martha said, we can absorb the 2 foul things. We can absorb a starter having an off night because you have a roster that is so much better basketball IQ and so much better athletically. Speaking predominantly of Galloway and the two freshmen, when you bring them off the bench, there's not that big a drop off from what was in previous rosters.
Yeah, Martha, your thoughts on X and his struggles?
Yeah, I think, and I was going to ask Coach this. I put a message over there on the right, and obviously we know he struggled at the beginning of last season a little bit. It took him a while to kind of, get into the system and play well. But then when he did, boy, did he ever, right? We've talked a lot about that. But, how much of his struggles, I wonder, are because he's got a guy next to him in Jalen Hood Schifino, who's coming in with all this publicity, this 5-star guy, right? How much pressure is he feeling to continue to perform with that guy next to him, right? Do we think that's causing any pressure? I'm very curious on what your guys' thoughts are on that, because that's something I keep thinking about, because all he's seeing, he had a heck of an end of the year last year, and all he's hearing about is this 5-star point guard that's coming in. He should start, So I would be curious on what your guys' opinion is on that.
Yeah, I thought the same thing last night, Martha, as I was watching Jalen Hood Schifino the second time live just play basketball the right way. Like this was your team. You were running the show last year, and now you're getting outplayed. You want to believe that at some point that'll be okay with him because it's a teammate and he understands that it's making everyone better. And I really think X will get there. But you can't help but think I'm throwing the ball away. I'm missing 3-point shots, and this guy's getting oohs and ahs from the crowd. I think it's just human nature to feel a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of stress with that situation, because Hood Schifino's a player now. I mean, he's a true point guard that can score. and runs the transition break the way it needs to be. And then, the only thing that can do is make X better, because he's either going to get it or he's not going to get it. And if he doesn't get it, we have someone who can fill in. But I think the track record is that he will settle into a role. It probably won't be as much as last year. And I think that's where Woodson and the coaching staff is trying to tell him that he doesn't have to do everything, just be X. And if he's X with Jalen Hood-Schifino, we have a dynamic backcourt. And so it's just a process of keep talking and listening as a coach. You got to listen to them and help young people through those things, because I don't think Race and TJD are stressing out about Renew coming in and scoring 15 points in 17 minutes. But X has had some history of emotion. And so you do wonder. I thought that very thing up in press row last night is like, what's he thinking with 2 fouls out and seeing this kid run the show? All right, so I think that's a valid point. I don't know that we'll ever find out, because I don't know that's something the public really needs to know. That's something for the coaching staff to be aware of. But if he uses that for the benefit of his play and the team play, that's a good thing. If it becomes something that he presses too much, then obviously that's a negative.
Well, and whether it's something that he's conscious of, that he's thinking this, or it could be subconscious. It could be even below the surface that he doesn't realize. But it is, and Joel had a very smart comment. I guess he's sobered up from last night, and good to see Joel awake and go and alive with us. But he said that Jalen Hood-Schifino hasn't been through the Big Ten wars. X will have his time, and that's a good point, because that may be kind of one of the flipping points. Jalen Hood-Schifino has been cooking on all cylinders and everything, but when he does hit those speed bumps of adversity or struggles and what he finds in these bigger games, that's when it's going to be fantastic to have X behind him to kind of calm him and show him the way. And yes, young blood, I should say, since we have Coach here. This is what it's like in the Big Ten. These are the bumps and bruises, and this is what we're going to face. And it's going to be okay. This is how we move on from here, and this is how we address that. So I think it will come in due time. And again, it's just all because of our depth that we don't have to worry about these things. We can let these things just kind of simmer and work themselves out to a degree. Obviously, no big concern. Again, these games, everything that we've seen so far, no major concerns going into any of those. Jordan Geronimo was another one.
Another hasn't been scouted.
True. That's a good point too.
Scouted yet by all the good coaches.
Yep. But they may find something. Absolutely. They may find something on him and get after him once it is. Someone else that had a really great game last night that he found a little bit more of his game and settled into it was Jordan Geronimo. I mean, during the exhibitions, we didn't see him look like himself. He scored 10 points last night and attempted a 3. Again, I like his stat line from last night, and I think that's kind of the baseline game we need to see from Jordan, where I'd liked him to attempt at least 1 3 each game, and almost had an amazing dunk on that breakaway. Little reminiscent for me of the Victor Oladipo Michigan dunk, kind of really cranking it back, and would have been amazing if that went in. Wish we had a replay of that, but we didn't get that. But Coach, what did you see out of Jordan last night?
Jordan did Geronimo things. He rebounded. He hustled. I liked his ability to put the ball on the floor and have some composure when he was in the lane. Had a nice little spin move. Those are the things that he's going to do to have to keep getting minutes, because, boy, Renew and the other 2 starting post players are going to, demand minutes with their play. But I thought he looked a lot more poised in game 1 than he did in the exhibitions. And that's only going to add depth again in a 2-foul situation, or please no injuries happen. But I think he did what he could do, and it showed some improvement. So, hey, I got to bounce out of here. I got students starting to come in, and so I just wanted to say it's always a great morning when you can start with Martha. I'd rather have coffee with Martha than Mrs. Tonsoni any day. And Chad, you're awesome too. Thanks for having me on. Have a great rest of the show, and go Hoosiers.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, buddy.
So, Martha, go ahead into your thoughts on Jordan last night.
Yeah, I think, I think for the first time this season, he made his presence felt, right? I think, you heard Coach talk about, watching him drive to the basket, the spin move, right? You noticed him, and it was really the first time all season that I have, right? And that's the good Jordan, right? When he's flying all over the place, when he's using his athleticism, and it stuck out last night, and that's so encouraging to see, because obviously, Coach mentioned it, right? For him to see the court, he's going to have to do those things, right? He's going to be asked to play a little bit of 3, a little bit of 4, so he's going to have to be very versatile, and I think we noticed that last night. So encouraged, right? Because again, I don't know that we felt it as much during the exhibition game. So to see it, against some real competition in the first real games, I think is encouraging for us moving forward.
Yeah, and the storyline kind of going into half of frustration wise was the lack of taking 3-point shots. The only ones that we had in the first half, and actually the very first one to go in even, was a banked 3-point shot by Tamar. Tamar had a pretty good game coming in there, getting the most minutes I think we've seen from him this year so far. 23 minutes, ended with 9 points, 4 for 6 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3. Obviously, you'd want to see him hit more of those shots, but just, again, being a part of that second unit, that very athletic, very mobile second unit, not only what he brought offensively, but his defense as well. As we kind of stated earlier, it was that defense of that second unit that kind of came in, slowed down the game to a degree on the defensive side, and got some stops in there and got Morehead State kind of in their heads a little bit. Your thoughts on Tamar last night?
Yeah, I think he's starting to find it, right? I think, again, another guy that you loved when he was in the lineup. And, I really noticed him a little bit on the defensive end. You talked a little bit about, the switching, and he really stuck out to me, his ability and his length, and, his reactiveness, being able to switch. So that's where I really felt like his presence was known. And I mentioned last, when I've started to join you on this show, I've really tried to look at, as a fan, I'm always just, let's score points, but I'm really trying to focus on the defensive end. And he really, I noticed the switching, and he really stuck out to me as well. But again, a lot like Jordan, he was very active as well. So, and the amount of minutes, right? I think, he played more minutes than Race and maybe a couple other starters. I'm not sure, but just I was happy with him. I think that he came in, played well, also made his presence felt. So encouraged by his performance as well.
Yep. And someone that we want to see get a little more active, but it was good to see the shots that he did get. Speaking of that 3-point shooting, was Miller Kopp. Kind of had a non-existent game in that sense, where we didn't see him at all in the first half really do much. Took one field goal attempt on a drive, but didn't make that. And in the second half was kind of where he shined, and he went 2 for 2 from 3-point. Both of those were assists from Jalen Hood-Schifino, finding him one on a breakaway that was kind of a real momentum kicker, and hope we see these kind of actions, and probably will a lot more this year, where it was a Trace Jackson-Davis block, got the ball out to Jalen Hood-Schifino. He drove up and drew in the defensive players towards him on the threat that he was going to go to the rim, and he kicked it over beautifully to Miller Kopp for the 3. I think that was maybe his first one of the game. Those are the types of plays you like to see. Those are the plays I want to see a little bit more, with the fast speed and breakaways that this team is going to have this year. Having him out there just poised and ready to receive the ball and take a shot is awesome. It's fantastic to see. What'd you think of Miller Kopp's game, those moments? And obviously, we need to get more.
Yeah, I kind of see it maybe a little bit differently than you. That's a stat line I'll take from Miller Kopp any game of the year, right? I think that if he's knocking down every 3-point attempt that he takes, he's knocking down his free throws and knocks down a couple field goals, that's a better Miller Kopp than we had last year, right? And we were, I've mentioned it a couple times, we were a couple made 3-pointers from Miller Kopp away from winning a couple games last year, right? I mean, I don't know that we need him to score a ton. What I do agree with you on, though, is it would be fantastic to see, especially if he's gonna shoot from distance at a higher percentage and we're a little bit more comfortable, I would love to see more sets ran for him, right? And I think you said it. We don't see a lot of that. We'll see it occasionally in the second half, and the one open look that I remember him knocking down was that fast break that you mentioned. But we talked a lot about this last year too. Is like, would love to see some sets run for him, and maybe last year it was a thing that there just wasn't that confidence that because he wasn't knocking down a lot. He didn't seem to have a confidence stroke last year, but we've heard so much about how he shoots it in practice. And if he comes out and can translate that into gameplay, which we're starting to see that maybe he is, probably need a little bit more of some game action, but would love to see some sets ran for him. And I think that just makes us all that more dynamic.
Yeah, and I think part of that can be explained away to the competition that we're playing against. We're obviously playing against smaller guys, less need for those types of actions to clear out the inside when we just kind of have the overall advantage. And a lot of the arguments and stuff that I heard at halftime about people were saying about IU not getting those shots up and everything like that, and was just because IU was playing what they were given. And we were given the two, and we were given the two at a high percentage, and we were able to hit that. So we just kind of played the game, as it was coming to us. Now, diving into some of those stats and getting into a little bit of the ugly and everything, obviously the biggest storyline stat-wise was the free throws. Struggling with free throws yet again. At one point in the first half being 1 for 7, finished the first half 4 for 10, 40%. And the second half shot 8 for 11, a lot better, 72%, ending 57% overall. A little bit of a frustration. I don't know. Is it a hex that we have? Martha, your thoughts on the free throws?
Yeah, and I sat there thinking, it's like, because as we're going through it again, it's like I'm trying to remember a time when I felt like we had a good free throw shooting team, and it made me scratch my head a little bit, because it seems like at least the recent past, it's been a continuous struggle. We'll bring new players in, it continues to be a struggle. So you really can't there's really nothing you can point to, and you don't know. And I think Coach, you saw Coach's comment after the game. He's like, you can tell it's bothering him based off, what he said. He's frustrated with it, because this team's going to get to the line a lot with our size, with our driving ability, with Hood-Schifino as big as he is, with our wings. We're going to get to the line quite a bit. And you shoot a game. You have a free throw game like this in conference play, it could be the difference between winning and losing. So it's something that we really want to see at least get a little bit better, so that way when the competition does strengthen, we're not in a position where it costs us a game. So again, I don't think there's a magic button or a switch that can be flipped, but man, you just hope it corrects itself, and we're not talking about it a month from now as still being an issue.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a practice thing. Are they practicing? They're too fresh when they're at the free throw line. Maybe run a few killer sprints and then stand up to the line. Maybe you're just tired. You're amped up in the game. I mean, that can be obviously a situation as well. A few other players to kind of talk about that got in there a little bit late. We didn't see much from him, but Caleb Banks getting in there and looking a little bit better this game. Saw him get a little bit of drives, a little more athleticism out of him. CJ Gunn as well got in there, had a few shots and everything, but nothing spectacular, but continued to kind of show that he has some developing to be done, but is going to be a very special player moving forward. Any other players that we didn't cover so far that you want to kind of speak on?
Yeah, we've talked about him a little bit, but Malik Renew just continues to be a man. I am so impressed with him. I don't know what percentage he's shooting from the field, after, if you count the exhibition games, but I don't know that he's missed 5 shots, and maybe I could be wrong, but it seems like every time he drives it to the hole, he finishes it. And whether it's through contact or whatever it is, he's a man. And I guess I didn't know what to expect. I knew he was highly ranked. You obviously saw he was a big kid, but these 3 games, I've been pretty blown away. He just, you think about all the, the predictions and the momentum and the media kind of hyping us up. And, you hear a lot of people kind of arguing to that point. But then you start to look at what we add with what we return, and if it pans out, and you're starting to see it kind of pan out a little bit. Yeah, it's early, right? The competition is going to get real tough real soon. But man, it's going the way you want to see it go, and especially the dynamic he adds, right? I think the ability, that's really where I felt we struggled when we had to go to the bench for a big man, and I wasn't sure what he'd be able to provide as a freshman. I mean, it's a big ask for a big guy, and again, I'll say it again, we're one real game in, so but the eye test thus far has me extremely excited.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And coaches even mentioned in the post games and everything, and even Malik has said he's happy with his role being that energy and that guy that comes off the bench. And excuse me, you'll hear a lot of people argue that does he need to maybe start? I don't think he does. I wouldn't. And even if he continues doing as well as he is, I wouldn't want him to start. I like him coming off the bench. I like the energy he brings. And that just means that he can come off the bench that much sooner. And again, to say the old cliche, it's not who starts the game, it's who finishes it, is going to be true for this team. Because, again, we're going to have guys that struggle and other guys can pop in and finish for them. I mean, it's more about how many minutes are played overall rather than if you stepped up and had those first couple of minutes for the team. But to be able to go to him earlier in the game if either Race or Trace are struggling. And the good thing is in this game, we got to see a little bit more go of him and Trace playing together, which was good to see. But being able to do that is great. And he can have his struggles. He can have his moments, and there's no stress on him to have to come in immediately and deliver like there would have been had either Race or Trace decided not to come back this year. So in the big man area in business, it's just about the best situation we could hope for as a team. Looking through all the other stats, obviously our 3-point shooting got a lot better in the second half. I'd love to obviously see the volume of 3-point shooting go up a little bit more, just shooting 11 3-pointers in the game. Any other stats or anything that stick out to you, Martha?
Yeah, I think that it's almost like an early season football game. You don't want to give away your entire playbook, your entire, you don't want to show everything, right? And so, it's something that you look at, 4 for 11 and you take a little bit of pause. But again, I don't think it's too big of a concern, right? We talked about free throws. Outside of that, nobody really, you had Malik with his 4 fouls, but they were kind of I'll call him a quiet 4. He got his 4th late in the game when it was already in doubt. So nothing else really jumps out at me. I continue to be pleased that with the starters kind of getting a slow start. You saw Trace go sit on the bench, I think, for it was a while in the first half, right? So to be able to play well with your best player on the bench, I think that's encouraging as well. I think I'll call that a stat that kind of jumps out to me. I was encouraged by that. So yeah, just some good stuff overall.
Yeah, and I think that speaks volumes to coach's confidence in the second unit. That was the point when IU was struggling and when Morehead State had the lead, that he felt fine having his bench guys in there at that point and run with them for quite a while. Now, again, he's probably not concerned about that because, again, it's against Morehead State, which it can't be taken lightly. Again, they're going to finish pretty high up in their conference, but just shows how much faith there is in the bench, what the bench can produce, and just the overall feeling that we can have as fans this year that we don't have to worry about this player not doing well or that player not doing well or God forbid, let me find some wood to knock on, someone gets injured. We have some guys that can step in, whereas last year we lose Trey for an extended period. And again, I will stand on that hill for forever. if we had him healthy, there's 3 more games and a lot better seed in the tournament that we would have had that injury not occurred from him. So just overall exciting that we have this bench to go to and the depth of players, and we're reaping those benefits. They're getting the playing time. They're getting the go. That is going to just help us moving forward and everything. Let's go ahead and start maybe wrapping it up. Give me, Martha, your kind of final thoughts, or before I get to that, is there any other storylines in this game that you want to cover that you don't think we have?
No, I think we nailed it. I think just the continued balance of being able to rely on a second 5 of players, and just to continue to see how that evolves moving forward. I don't know that we're going to see it shrink down as far as we did last year. We saw some of the same early in the season last year, where there were those line change kind of substitutions, and we're not seeing it that we're not seeing 5 in, 5 out to the degree we were last year, but we have a second 5 that we can really rely on. I don't see that changing anytime soon. So it'll be interesting to see how that continues to evolve. And obviously, with the quick turnaround playing again on Thursday, you really hope to see that maybe X comes out and has a really strong game. You look at his line, and it's not like it was awful, right? It's not like he put up a bunch of shots and missed them. He was just quiet, got in early foul trouble and 2 turnovers, but make 2 or 3 shots. So it's not like it was, a glaringly poor game. It's just we haven't seen that X we saw late in the year last year. So hopefully, here before long, we see a game like that from him. And I think it will kind of put everybody at ease and start griping, or stop the griping that we're kind of hearing a little bit right now.
Yeah. Good point there. And yes, I will sandwich my thoughts. At the beginning, I started with saying that it was the first game, and it was the first official game. And IU took care of business at home, and we defeated them. We stay undefeated at home. Coach even said in the early comments, you saw that video come out, that we're going to protect our home court. We're going to try to go undefeated, and no one's going to beat us here at Assembly Hall. And what I take away from this game is I try to take away the positives, and I try to take the negatives as good learning things. And these are things that coaches can build on, and we can learn about, and we can just get better as we go on. IU, like Martha said, is going to play Thursday at 10 o'clock. They have a BC Cookman, or BC, not Boston College, Bethune Cookman. I think I'm saying that right. It's at 8:30. It's on BTN. So guys, go ahead, cancel that BTN Plus subscription unless you're wanting to watch some of the soccer or any other sports that are going that you can't catch. But that's where you will find all that information and everything. But for now, thank you for joining us on this edition of Hoosier Morning After. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. There you can find out when we're going to go live and all that. Also follow me on Twitter at General Chadwick and Martha the Mop Lady as well. There you'll find out information when we're going to go live, and you can join our chat. Thank you for those that joined us in the chat. Great to see you guys in there and active today. Tony, Joel, everyone that was in there helping out and contributing. I appreciate that. Great to have you guys here. Michelle as well. We'll be live again the morning after next game. Can't wait to see you there, guys. Until then, go out there, have a wonderful day, and as always, go Hoosiers.